to Convo Fango. Today we are joined by writer, director, Goran Stolevski. You Won't Be Alone, premiering at Sundance. Yay!
Yay! Yeah, thank
Yay!
you for having me.
So I got a chance to watch this. I loved it. It is extremely my jam, so I'm really excited for people to check this out.
Awesome.
You want to tell
Awesome.
us a little
I'm
bit?
excited and terrified. Yes.
Excited and terrified. That's a good combo, right?
Yeah, it's how I live my life.
That's, I mean,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Waiting for the Zoom interview, and it's like the host will let you in soon, and I'm just like dripping in sweat. 'Cause I'm like, is that 30 seconds, 5 minutes? We don't know, you know?
Well, I like to be surprised.
Yeah, makes us feel alive. It's a good time.
Mm, mm.
So tell us a little bit about what this movie is about.
So it's a story about a witch set in the 19th century in Macedonia in a mountain village, or well, what is now Macedonia. And yeah, it's a girl who grows up in isolation, away from other human beings. She's transformed into a witch, and then abandoned and left to run feral in the woods. When she sees people for the first time, she becomes curious about them and wants to live among them. She realizes that if she kills someone, she can then take over their body and live in their body as them. And she semi-accidentally does kill a village woman one day, and then decides to take over her body and her life. And that's the first of many to try and understand what it is like to be among other people. And yeah, we go from there.
It's like take a walk in my shoes, literally. Yeah. Right?
And my
Yeah.
feet.
Exactly. So this is like a very, very specific mythology, and I'm wondering if you pulled some of this lore from like existing folklore or fairy tales, or if this was just from scratch, or is it inspired by multiple things?
No, not really. I mean, I was looking to do that initially. I was researching, lore and mythology from that period, and that space. And then eventually, I went into more like historical research rather than mythological. And I was just stunned. I don't even know why I was stunned, but I was stunned to find that in the Balkans, the Balkan region, same as in other places around the world, people who were accused of witchcraft, they were routinely accused of having taken the shape of another human being
Hmm.
or an animal. And I was like, oh, wow, it happened here too. And I was like, well, if you can do that, what an incredible perspective on life. You're living outside of humanity and outside of time, essentially. And just kind of, this is like a whole other, look at things. And then, yeah, I took that as a premise. I was really interested in capturing a way of life in a very day-to-day, basic, grimy level of what it was like to be like an agrarian, village subsisting in the 19th century in the mountains. And, that's a way of life that existed for thousands of years, not just in that region, but all over the world, really. And yeah, I wanted to capture that, and then throwing in this other element, this one other element, that there are some women or people along around who can have the ability to transform into someone else.
Hmm.
If you keep everything else the same, how would that affect things? And just went from there.
I think what appealed to me so much was what you just touched upon there with perspectives. Like you have multiple characters here that you get to experience two very different perspectives. There's the
Mm,
perspective of kind of like everyone people screwed me over and so I hate them and I approach things with like revenge and darkness. And then there's this
mm,
other very flip side to it of this perspective of just like being in wonder and in awe of everything. And it's kind of this like I like to think about like miracles in the mundane. Like everyday
mm,
life, you can find lots of miraculous things if you're willing to look for that. And I feel like you
mm,
balanced those two sides there and you get to experience just the wonder and awe of this character just doing very, very simple, like basic day-to-day
mm.
things that people take for granted and just being like, wow, this is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those two women are basically my personality split in half. Like, I keep having to explain. I don't disembowel people for a living. Like, it's not an autobiographical story. I'm sorry.
Well, not that you're going to say on
But
camera, at least. Okay.
yeah, I know. Hey, code. No, like it is that, and I think it's also how much. and I think both attitudes are a little bit valid. I don't want to, I mean, obviously, I'm not saying the actions are valid, but I think the way those two women have of looking at the world, like I deeply connect to both sides, both kinds, and then I also understand how one came about and the other came about, and I think, but I was just wondering, what is that ineffable thing that some people can experience horrific trauma but still retain hope and and joy and faith in in life, and then what is it that crushes others, and that's it, like, because the story is about someone trying to live as fulfilling a life as they possibly can with limitations placed around them at all times and boundaries, which is everyone's life. We all have limitations, probably not as horrific as what's in this movie, but still, you just go like, there are so many obstacles to living happy, fulfilled life. So how do you maintain that faith that it's worth it, essentially? And yeah, those two women are the flip side of both attitudes. And I think there is a lot of wanting to understand each other as well, especially from the antagonist wanting to understand protagonist as well. And I relate intensely to that search to trying to understand, and you just can't. There's something in you psychologically, emotionally, that you just can't understand. And yeah, that's how that came about.
Yeah, okay. No, I loved it. And even with the
I may have just
antagonist.
gone on a tangent. I tend to do that. I should have warned you.
We both go on tangents, so this whole thing's just going to be a tangent and tangent. It's going to be great.
Excellent. You and me are going to have a great time. I wonder how everyone else will feel.
An hour later, I'm like, oh shit, that's supposed to be 15 minutes. I'm so sorry. You have me thinking about like all these like deep existential thoughts that I like already have, and it just like dives into it, but in like this very cool trappings, you know what I mean? Because I'm like, yes, witches, shape shifting, I'm here for it. And then I'm like, oh my god, I'm thinking about all this like very deep shit on top of that. So
yeah, I mean, that's the kind of it's what you want, really, for a movie. You want to be transported, and it helps. I think the setting helps as well, but also, yes, if these other things that we don't have the capability of in real life, I think it helps. I think it doesn't work to just capture real life as it is, unfiltered. That would be shit boring cinema. You want to be transported, and then once you are transported, let's see how that, what we can glean about our actual lives and feelings and thoughts in this other context.
nailed it.
So yeah. Hey, thank you.
Where did you guys? You're all, this is my 50th interview of the day, and I've been waiting for that. Well, there you go. So, where did you guys shoot this? Because it was very like, it lends itself to this very mythological, fantastical kind of place.
It was in Serbia, the mountains of southern Serbia, close to the Macedonian border. It's close to where I grew up, actually, and I am part Serbian as well. It's set in Macedonia still. And yeah, it's an exceptional place. Almost pretty much all of it was sort of shot around this one village, and a lot of the buildings are existing structures.
Wow.
There's a 16th century house in the film that we didn't touch. Like, we just found it. And it's like,
okay, amazing.
And it was beautiful, and like all the nature around it also lend itself to this other aspects of the film. I thought we'd have to be all over the place and try and do a hodgepodge. Like, it was a relatively low budget, but no, we were very lucky, and we kept things pretty simple and raw and organic as much as possible, even in terms of like building on top of what was there. Our production designer, Beth Ryan, who's also an auteur in my opinion on this film, she was sort of like literally go into how would they have done this in the 1800s, what were the materials existing in this environment, and look at the practices of how there was some elder villagers who still were aware of how it was done, and we brought them on to our crew. It's like, that was the most fun that I ever had.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were looking at keeping it relatively organic in that way. And yeah, it was great. It was incredible because they were also extremely welcoming, and I speak Serbian. I thought I speak it badly, but it seems I'm okay. And especially because the dialect in that part of Serbia is much closer to my native version. They could understand me a lot easier than the actual Serbians from the capital city at the time. So we got along like a house on fire with the people from the village. And it was actually a really beautiful experience. Like, it was just like, we don't know if this one's going to be good, but hey, we're all having the time of our lives.
There you go. It was the journey, not the destination, right? Like,
Completely. Well, I'm half kidding. We're also very much like, how do we make this the best possible movie
right.
we possibly can?
No, you can tell. You can tell. It's awesome. It's very specific design for the look of the witch. How did you
Mm.
decide like what elements were going to be included and what her look was going to be?
I can't talk about this too much without going into spoiler territory. I keep struggling with it.
Okay, that's why I didn't say
Again,
anything
as with
specific.
everything else, yeah, as with everything else, I was just trying to go, what are the circumstances? If this was a real person, what would happen at what point, in what way, how would that, what imprint would it leave? So it was about keeping it as simple as possible and using real life references rather than fictional or illustrated or, it was always about keeping it as human size rather than mythological, because I felt like there was plenty of mythology in there. I don't think we had
Right.
to like amp it up or emphasize it. So it was very much about keeping it simple. And also, I didn't want anything to distract from her eyes. To me, the eyes are the most important
Hmm.
part of how she looks. And Anna Maria Marinka is someone that I grew up as just, she was in the pantheon of the great actors alive. When I saw 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, to this day, it's still something that I'm like, this is just the peak of what art can do. So yeah, when you have those eyes in your film, you just want to. My main brief was like, I need the eyes to come through clearly
Yeah.
at all times. I need her to be able to move how she wants. I need her to create, like her vibe and aura is in a human way as much as possible.
Hmm.
And her to have, the chance to move and speak how she wants. And yeah, we worked around that. And yeah.
And yeah, all
Now
right.
it's me.
Okay. And I will not say anything specific about that look. Okay. And
Yeah.
one more thing, I imagine this had to be challenging, and I'm wondering what the process was. You had to decide, like, for a certain character, what their mannerisms were going to be, and it has to be very specific and it has to be consistent. So I'm just wondering
Mm.
what the challenges in the process were for that.
Yeah, and most of those actors never got to meet each other as well. They were playing the one character.
Oh gosh.
I think I'm allowed to say that, so it's okay. Yeah, to be honest, I'm a little bit like I'm so happy with how it's worked out because we kind of went into it blindly, and I didn't want to. I don't like creating too many positions, especially
Hmm.
for actors. I feel like directing isn't about telling someone what to do. It's about creating an environment and then nurturing them through it so that they can kind of, you know, expand their soul to fit the world. I don't know, like, oh, that did not come out right. Whatever. It's literally, it is about nurturing rather than directing. So I
Right.
wanted them to have as much freedom as possible. And we, worked with Beth, the production designer, and Matthew Chuang, our cinematographer, to give them like a 360-degree space to operate in, and we would just follow them. Like, as the whole crew, we'd just kind of snake around them a lot of the time. They were just that absolute freedom in terms of where they could move. And essentially, I kind of had an emotional map for the character and the world they were in. I would connect. I connect with actors first as just as human beings. This is who we are. This is who I am. Like, so you understand me, what my perspective is, and where I'm coming from when I'm saying things about this world. And then we each connect with the character and the world, and then have as full an understanding of it as possible. It was more about spending time one on one with them, and then a lot of my energies in these characters. Well, in terms of like Nevena, the main character, like there's a lot that is connected to me, and I also feel like I have to feel every feeling before I ask someone else to do it.
Right.
And I think some of that works organically. I don't have to say something for them to just then embody that. Usually, like if I'm going through it, like instinctively you connect to another person.
Hmm.
In terms of the mannerisms, there was a basic set. Like, I used to be very obsessed with wild children, so children who were kind of discovered in their teenage years, having been raised either in the woods by wolves or whatever, but just completely in captivity, like having had no human contact. And there was one case I looked at it was footage. Her name was Jeannie Wiley, and I've been like just fascinated by this girl. Well, she's a woman now since high school and early university. So I found a video and I shared that with each of the actors. I think maybe not all of them. So that was a bit of a framework. Everyone got to meet Sarah. We played them the voiceover, so they understood the inner voice. And then it was just like yeah, have at it. And then each actor would build part of their own personality onto the character. I would inform the other actors of what that was, but it was
Right.
always about internal mechanisms and understandings rather than gestures or you know tics or mannerisms. It was very much about coming at it from the inside rather than the outside.
I
And
think
then
that's why
somehow
it was.
magically the mannerisms matched as well.
Yeah, I think that's what was so fascinating. It's because you can feel that common thread, that soul is like threaded through, and I was like, okay, that's not easy to do, and that was interesting and
Yeah, I
impressive.
mean, I don't know how it worked out, but God, it did.
But you
I mean,
did.
like, we went in with this attitude of this is what I'm feeling. Let's see, and it's just working off feeling and then hoping that it translates. You know,
Yeah.
like I think if you're too prescriptive, it becomes very mechanical,
Hmm.
and I don't think people are watching it as just information. You're not feeling it.
Yes.
So yeah, it is very tricky. I'm very happy with how it worked out. And also very happy that you know even when we had screenings and test screenings with people in developing the edit, like that was never a question of following that emotional through line. Everyone just kind of went with it. So even like from the rawest, roughest, earliest edit, it was just already present, and that was something I was very scared whether that would work. So it was funny that you know 3 drafts of the edit later I realized, oh my god, that's never come up. That's never
Yeah.
been an issue for anyone because they just go with it
It
so
just
easily.
is.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
ah, that's.
So then I will give you another nailed it.
Oh my god, I'm
All right.
saving this. I'm plugging them into my veins.
All right. I know we are out of time. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we got to have this chat because I'm a big fan of this and I'm excited for people to see. It has world premiere at Sundance and in theaters April 1st.